Good afternoon, beloved community. I am Melissa Miller, host of The Chosen Heroes. And for those of you who were on a few minutes ago, we all kind of got disconnected. So that's okay. So here we are, back at it again. Take two, right? Not letting any distraction or any agenda rule over us today. So let's start it out with a prayer. I think that is very important, and I hope that everyone can hear me now, because we were having technical difficulties before. So hopefully we're back up and rolling. Can someone out there just tell me if they're able to hear me out here? Awesome, perfect. All right, great. All right, let's kick it off with a prayer. God, universe, I thank you for our special guest today. We are claiming victory over any hidden agenda, any mind control, or any interference that is trying to intervene with your message. And for this beautiful community, we thank you, God, for covering this community with your hand of protection and surrounding those that are feeling lost and distraught and without hope, and filling their cup with the hope and the promise that we will be victorious over these mind control programs, this invasion on our body. We asked you, God, that you nullify everything that is within our body that is being used against us, and that you turn it for our favor, that any frequencies that are coming against our bodies, that they be so visible, that they be so seen, that those that can intercept them will take that knowledge and will spread it out for the whole world to see what is being hidden behind the veil, that the lies that we have been purposely served to believe is truth, that they all crumble under your hand and your wrath, God. For this is the time, this is the season and the reason that we are going to rise up with truth. That, God, you give us the clear eyes to see. You give us the clear to hear your voice, and to know and discern that it is your voice and not an intercepted agenda or malevolence trying to trick us into it. But we know the true voice of God. We walk with the full body armor of God cloaking us. And there is no weapon that is formed against us that will or shall prosper. We claim our victory. We claim the mantle of our birthright, our divine gifts that are given by the light and God himself. We claim them today. We will not be victims anymore. We will be victorious, and we will forge forward and begin to spread the awareness so that all innocent lives and civilians know what is going on behind this veil. God, I thank you for covering Mother Earth and all the living creatures, and all that is being done against an agenda to pollute our precious food sources and the beauty that is this earth. For your hand is on it. You are the lightning, you are the fire igniting in all of that. It is these agendas coming against us, because you do this for the ones that have fallen. You do this for the elderly who don't have the ability to raise their voice. And you do it for the children, and you do it for the future of humanity and for Mother Earth. We claim victory today, God. Amen. Whew. Yes. We're going to start out strong and kicking today. So now we're going to go into Targeted Justice Week in Review and Glory. I am so grateful for volunteer Sean. He does such a wonderful job, so talented on the videos. And this is one of his that he prepared for the Targeted Justice News.
It's that time again for the Targeted Justice newsletter, the video edition. April 23rd, 2025. We have some targeted, law-abiding citizens think that their neighbors are operating microwave ovens as a weapon. Can a microwave really be used as a deadly weapon? Let's look at the math and physics. So what happens when you open a magnetron, aka part of a microwave oven, to send microwaves? The government criminals have placed this diagram on many websites to convince you that an open microwave oven is a weapon. Does that make sense? Let's find out. Here is a diagram of the facts. We'll go over a couple of them. If this perp attempted to use his microwave by facing it towards the wall, they'll be dead within days because the signal will be reflected back at them. They would receive way more of the microwaves than the target. Another fact is that the first wall contains metal nails and screws, which will get hot enough to catch the wall on fire. How would a perp be able to prevent this? To avoid misinformation, stay up to date by reading the newsletters at targetedjustice.substack.com. You can learn valuable information such as microwave attacks come from cell towers and satellites, not from the neighbors. It would also be helpful to stay connected with other TIs, and use your free time to become a digital warrior and help shut down the program. Gang stalking refers to the coordinated effort by a group of individuals to systematically harass, intimidate, and damage the reputation of a target. This can involve spreading false rumors, isolating the person from their community, and manipulating others to turn against them. Workplace mobbing is a more specific term often used when this kind of behavior happens in a professional setting. It's a situation where a person is targeted by colleagues or higher-ups who engage in behavior to undermine their credibility, spread lies, and ostracize them. The original gang stalking training manual was originally written by British intelligence agents, due to the use of British spellings. The goal of gang stalking is often to create a sense of paranoia, fear, and distrust in the targeted individual, leading them to become socially and emotionally destabilized. The ultimate aim is to drive them to isolation, mental breakdown, or even self-destructive behavior, as they are led to believe that no one is on their side or that everyone is conspiring against them. To learn more about the common tactics of gang stalking, such as surveillance, how they spread false information, public humiliation, and more, go to targetedjustice.substack.com and search for what is gang stalking. Calling all digital warriors! Please share, repost, copy and paste this video and the text of this newsletter onto Twitter, Facebook, Truth Social, TikTok, etc. They will block it if you just post the link. We are still looking for volunteers. Let us know how you can help. What skill sets do you have? Write to tjustice2@proton.me. Put volunteer in the subject line. You can watch targeted justice videos on Rumble by going to the following link, https://rumble.com/user/real-targeted-justice/channels. Please consider donating. Targeted Justice is non-profit. The donations are tax deductible. Go to either https://pay.cornerstone.cc/targetedjustice or https://www.patreon.com/targetedjustice. You can also send a check to Targeted Justice, P.O. Box 15990, Houston, Texas 77220. Buy some cool gifts and t-shirts from Targeted Justice store by going to https://targeted-justice.printify.me/products or https://www.bonfire.com/store/targeted-justice-products. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. God bless.
Gloria, I mean, he does such a wonderful job on the news, so much better than looking at one of my little boring little slide presentations, right? He does it wonderful, so engaging. All right, so we have a couple of little announcements. Shout out to Target Source LLC. I can't say enough. I use the Silent Night every single night, and it makes a world of difference for me. And I know each of our targeting experiences is different, but this was something that I tried that was very helpful to me. And he also has the great Reset Zapper, which I've also used, that helps with the pain in the moment as well. And he has Dr. Hutla Clark's Zapper. It was her design, and he with his great skills, he engineered it to perfection. So that one also helps with killing bacteria, fungus, and parasites. So targetsourcellc.com. You can write Armando with any questions. He will get back with you at silentnight.source@gmail.com. Also, I want to give a shout out to, I just love Tranquility and what she's done with tievents.org. It is your one-stop shop for all things community events that for targeted individuals. I mean, every day of the week, there is something wonderful. It is so important for us to plug in as a community, because part of the program's agenda is to isolate you. And there are studies that I have recently read that isolation will take years off of your life. So plug in. Community is necessary. And we know that the public is trying to catch up. More and more people are becoming aware of this, getting frustrated. The ground is prime for people to start digesting that these atrocities do exist and they impact them and their families, and not to, they may not know to what extent, but they're getting there, and we got to give them time, because this is a lot of information that is coming out recently. So even if you decide that and I encourage you, Tranquility has a book on there on how to organize meetups for the TI community. I encourage you to download that. Also, be that one that take proactive measures and form one in your area if there isn't one. And all you have to do is let Tranquility know by emailing tievents@proton.mail.com and start your own lookup at maybe a coffee shop, or, you can pick a place, and then you can grow that into, a monthly meetup. So definitely, if there's not one in your area, plan on it. You can start that. You don't have to wait for someone else to. You can. And again, tievents.org. So I wanted to say we have upcoming guests for May. Griffin Herchko is going to be next Sunday on the 11th. Chris Metlin, who is the VP for Middle East and Africa for Targeted Justice. On the 18th, Harold Brenz, who is our VP of Europe for Targeted Justice. And ending the month is going to be Valdemar de Oliveira. He is going to be rounding up May, and he's the VP of Latin for Targeted Justice. We're growing so much all over the world with the presence, and this just speaks to the hard work that we have put in to make all of this possible. I host a biweekly working session with Jamie Rice. We had one yesterday. I'll post the video out on my X channel, and it's targeted individual combat training. And it's all about that inner work that is so necessary to combat this technology that's being used against us. If you're interested, email me and I'll get you for the next invite, which is going to be on May 10th. It is a teleconference and live interaction. Okay, so chosen_heroes@proton.me. Always look, I'm really wanting to hear from musicians, those who write poetry about the targeting experience, or musicians who wish to share an uplifting song, perform it on the Chosen Heroes. This is something I would love to get kicked off and to be a part of the Chosen Heroes. And if you're interested in volunteering and production, technical support, digital content, research, much appreciated. Just email me at chosen_heroes@proton.me. And I'm on a lot of places. So all of the social media accounts, I have a new Telegram chat that TIs can chat back and forth with each other. I encourage you to join. Let's just keep branching out and supporting one another. Okay. Before we get to our guest, I'm just going to give a really short message since we're a little behind due to the technical glitch that we had. I just want to remind everybody that, be good to yourself and be kind to yourself and nurture that inner child within you. And I wanted to share a couple of pictures with you. For me, as a child, I really just loved Barbies, and I collected a few that were from my time, which was quite a bit ago, and I'm going to share that. So, and then recently, I found a unicorn Lego, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that inner child within me was like, oh my God, I have to have that. I want to do that. So I just wanted to share that with you because when you reconnect with that inner child within you, the things that you just really loved, you're just honoring that. And it's a good reminder that we can still be playful, right? Even though we're having this heinous actions against us, but we need to make time to be playful and to tap back in, to have that joy and that laugh. And don't forget that you got to nurture your soul, and you do that by honoring your inner child as well. Another thing, recently, a friend of mine, she had loaned me her little Atari PlayStation, and that was really a hot thing when I was young. And so this is a picture of me doing Missile Command, and just got a really good kick out of seeing that. Those games again and getting to play, and again just honoring that inner child and just having a little bit of fun, because everything is just so serious with what is being done against us. So you've got to tap back in and play again and find those ways to incorporate that for yourself. I want to remind each and every person here today, our inner healing and having that joy and reconnecting with our child self and pursuing our healing in the midst of what has been done to us is the ultimate kryptonite to these mind control programs. This is how we take back and the system override that's been done on us and reclaim our power again. Because what they don't want is us to be healed. They don't want us connected with God or the universe, a higher power. They want to prevent us from that, because then we're tapping into our birthright, which is we have power and authority over evil forces. This is God's promise to us, that when the enemy attacks you, it attacks God as well. So let's tap back in and let's reclaim our power. I know inner healing can be a little scary, but it's so necessary, because those chains of oppression or trauma and things that we carry around is what these programs are gaslighting us with. So we need to flip the script on these gaslighters and claim our inner healing and our joy and find ways of reclaiming our life and getting back into the game. We don't have to be in isolation anymore. We are making waves of awareness. We have a beautiful, beautiful, vast community, and we just have to keep standing up and raising awareness. All right. So I'm going to bring Lindsay up. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Melissa.
Thank
you so much for having me today. I'm just very grateful to be here.
And thank you for being with us. with all of this, the scuffle of the technical, I wasn't able to bring up the bio on you again, but I thought, well, who better to say it than you? So can you tell us about your targeting experience and when you realized you were a targeted individual?
I sure can, Melissa. Yes, and like you said, we will not be defeated.
That's
We're
right.
used to this kind of thing happening, and you know what? That's why God made us as strong as we are, because I believe everyone in this community is a warrior, whether they know
Yes.
it or not.
Yes.
But to answer your question, Melissa, I realized that I was a target individual. I remember the day perfectly. It was December 1st, 2014, because it was my son's first birthday. And that was the day I started getting hit with voice to skull V2K. And I just remember having ever so slightly began to pick up this voice, this faint noise that sounded like it was coming from the background somewhere, and it sounded like somebody that I knew. And I quickly, like many of you that have V2K, I realized that wherever I went, this voice followed me. I quickly learned that, it wasn't audible, I couldn't record it. I realized it was telepathic in nature when I heard my own thoughts being spoken back to me. And I'll be honest, I mean, this realization almost, is pretty traumatic when this happens to somebody, and it placed me in kind of a state of shock, if you will. And I just, whether unbidden or premeditated, the simply horrifying fact was that someone or something was intercepting my thoughts. And there's no like book for dummies on what to do when a nefarious organization psychologically torments you, or subliminally reprograms people close to you. We're not taught. I mean, I just remember that so vividly, I was not taught how to deal with that. And then I realized, very early on, is that the truth is that I was being set up to fail. The goal of this, unfortunately, Melissa, the goal of this program, I found out was, let's try to drive the target, to their wits' end, create a myth of mental illness around her, leading her to, go to institutionalizations. And I know that's what they have been intending to do to many people through their experiments. However, I quickly came to see, that creating a better, stronger version of somebody like me who was very broken for a long time, by God's grace, actually what was accomplished, and that was back in 2014. And, so it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Right. Yes. I can definitely relate to that story too, especially about the V2K. Mine started out with gang stalking and the gaslighting, and in the workplace environment, about where I went for lunch, and just the taunting and the bullying and all of that. And then I'll never forget the day where I was at home and I started to hear those familiar voices from work in the home. And I'm like, where is that coming from? And like you said, could not record them, but I could clearly hear them. And then my mother also began to hear some of it as well. It's like they're lying somehow or another. How they do this, if they were trying to focus in on me, it expanded out and she was able to hear it. And some people who visited the home were also able to hear it too. So again, they clearly didn't have all their stuff together in those moments, because it was like 4 different people going, who are those people talking? And I'm like, oh my God, they can hear it. Somebody can hear it too. So I was like,
Hear it? My goodness. Yeah. I mean, the mind control. I don't know if you get the, I also get the, the brain thought interruptions and direct energy weapons, like many of you out there as well.
absolutely. Yeah. I get the directed energy, and, there are things that are being projected to me. I know that does not come from me. So in that moment, I'm like, that is not me. That is not me. I'm just trying to nullify it. So your targeting began, you said, in 2018?
2014.
2014. Mine was in 2012.
Okay.
And Okay, and then you mentioned on the types of targeting you
Yeah.
experience. So, what words of advice do you wish to share with the community?
Oh, you know what? That's my favorite part actually. But I was gonna say, just like many of you, I was I experienced organized stalking. I had people following me in cars I didn't recognize by
Hmm.
day, and at nighttime, I would have people 100, 200 yards away from me shining what looked like flashlights on and off at me wherever I went. And it didn't matter if I was in, Houston, League City, even in, New York, Antigua and Barbuda on my honeymoon. And I don't know if it was a hologram to this day, but I have videos of this. It's just it's amazing the things they do to try to intimidate us and to try to break us down. And that's why this community is so important, Melissa, like you were talking about. But as far as advice, I have so much advice for this community because I'm so grateful for this community.
Hmm.
When this started for you and I, Melissa, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there.
Hmm.
I mean, I certainly, I was the odd duckling in my family. No one believed me, and I know a lot of that was on purpose. But I would say one of the first things is, as far as advice goes, is to not listen to your V2K. I can't stress this enough. I spent many years being engaged in a conversation with my V2K, where if I was talking to you, Melissa, or anybody else in the room, I'd be having conversations, but I wouldn't have any idea what was being spoken because I was so focused on, giving my V2K an audience. And I like many of you, I mean, I went to the psychiatrist's office. I knew intuitively that there was something funny going on. Yet I did what I was told to do, and they thought told me that I had schizophrenia, even though I knew I did not. And I just wanted so badly to rid my mind of this disturbing conversation. Because and I realized I tried many, many things. But I knew the root of the problem, wasn't being addressed.
Right.
And um, I tell everybody I work with now to always listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, because the way I see it, the enemy tries to blind us, right? He can blind us, he can, deafen us. The way I see it, that one sense, that sixth sense, that intuition that we have, I feel like it's, that's God given. And the way I feel is if I'm praying and I get interrupted, or I, lose track of what I'm saying because there's a conversation going on, I
Hmm.
have to, I always ask God to to answer my prayers
Hmm.
through the way I feel, right? Through my
Yes.
senses, because I
Hmm.
know that the enemy can't touch that. And I, honestly, obviously, I would also say don't be afraid to have a voice. You guys, I had a therapist tell me one time that your voice is the greatest antidepressant on the planet.
Hmm.
And it's, I know how difficult living as a TI is, but just try to be careful to not let your emotions overrule your ability, um, to stay grounded, to not react. Try to not let yourself react in any way. And that's what they want. That's the name of their game. They once we learn to stay above the drama and not to stoop to their level, it enhances our credibility as individuals and as a community, and we become a force to be reckoned with, you guys. And also, one of the biggest things some people forget is, to me, don't be afraid. And then I'm telling everyone else this because I tell my whole story usually, um, and I show my weaknesses. I tell people, my weaknesses about myself, and like for instance, I've been in recovery from addiction for 7 years now, and the way I only say that because showing my weaknesses equates to being able to see God's strength,
Hmm.
because his power really is made perfect in our weakness. And if we can all use that to connect to each other, we just have a bigger community.
Yes.
You know, I believe that TIs are God's army. That's what I believe, and I say that all the time. You know?
Yes, I truly do believe that we are, his hand is on all of us to
Mhm.
help us. There's something so unique and special about us that we were sought after to, in many cases, there was probably a misconception and ignorance that we were, easily overridden, right? And easy, easy targets, right?
Yes.
Because, I feel like for me, I've always been very much empathetic and an empath,
Mhm.
and I care, and I'm all heart. And I think I even was told by what I believe where all this started was at this corrupt business that I worked for, is that I was sensitive and wore my heart on the sleeves, and directly to my face saying, no one, these women in your department are never going to like you. This may not be the right place for you. And again, that's all part of the gaslighting
Mhm.
and the manipulation that goes into this program. So here, and
Right.
I am being threatened if I didn't stop raising awareness on my findings, that there was going to be a negative consequence to my life, which is what this came forward, right? The
Right.
game stalking and the gaslighting. So
Mhm.
it all is a tactic of manipulation
Yep.
to make you withdraw, isolate, self-destruct,
Mhm.
and take your self-worth away and your power away from you. And then it's like this perfect little design of, okay, and then the psyop of it is when you tell somebody, they think you're crazy, and they
Mhm.
can't relate to it because they can't think that something so heinous exists.
Exactly.
And then you feel even more enclosed in a cage with
Right.
this.
And we
So,
cannot listen. That's what not just not listening and not just not engaging is important, but
mm-hmm,
like you said, usually 9 times out of 10 from everyone I've ever met and spoken with that goes through V2K, it's usually something they want from you. Like you said, they wanted you to stop raising awareness. They wanted your
mm-hmm.
activism to completely stop. And same for me. They gave me a command too. Do this, and your voices will go away. That's
Oh,
what they
yeah.
said forever. And I'm so grateful that that was the time in my life where I finally, had God come into my life and just asked him to help me and change me anyway, just his will be done. And he was, there was I sensed, just hang on, don't listen, don't obey that command, So, I mean, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's
I too
Mm.
had that.
tough.
If I wrote a letter saying that it was all in my head and sent it to the owner of the business that I worked for,
Oh, wow.
then they would restore my privacy.
And
And I
first of
was
all,
like,
it's not even true.
no.
We know so many stories, right? Of people of listening, and it only turns out bad, you
And,
know?
I mean, what they would have done is just use that to get me probably committed,
Right?
and as just being crazy.
Yeah.
um you have to, there's no honor amongst thieves, and we need to think of the that's what this is, a bunch of thieves that have invaded our biofield, right, to
Right.
terrorize us and use our trauma, our past, what we're doing in any given moment to
Right.
bait and gaslight us with.
Yes.
So if you recognize the game for what it is, then it loses its power over you. And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
that is how you start rebuilding, because you know the maneuver of what the end goal is. So if anything, just do the opposite of everything, right? Be
Yeah.
spontaneous, mix
Yeah.
things up,
I
because
know.
if they don't have any power over you, then it just silences them, because nothing that they say or do means anything.
I
And once
agree.
they realize that you don't take any value to anything that they say,
Mhm.
because they circulate on you, like, let's just say you're having a one thing after another in one day, and you lose your cool in a moment. Here
Mhm.
comes the vultures to
I
descend
know.
on you.
I
So
know. And
it
that's a good point. A lot of people, in this community have great ideas for shielding physically, right? But I don't think people talk enough about mental shielding.
mhm.
And that could be anything from, Melissa, like your positive affirmations that you do on the Victory Through V2K show. And for me, it took me years to train my mind to actively focus on all the other sounds around me,
Yes.
running water,
Yes.
air conditioning,
Uh-huh.
focusing constantly, purposely, to keep me from giving them an audience. And it takes a long time, but you know what? I mean, my life changed, you guys, when I decided to mentally take it back. And it takes a lot of work and energy and focus at first, but
Yeah,
eventually, like everything else, it becomes second nature. I
it
still
does.
hear them, I just don't actively listen. Now, unfortunately, now I'm having some hearing difficulties, so they're probably trying to take my my hearing away, so I'll have to listen now. But still, I'm living to fight another day, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that, that I've met you and everybody in this community, and we've all been, God's put us all together for a reason.
That's right, and you're just such a joy and a shining light in the community, and this can be everyone can achieve this. Like, it just
Yes.
takes time. Well,
Hmm.
you have to equate the V2K to, when you go to a noisy restaurant and
Hmm.
there's this background noise, it needs to become your
Yes.
background noise, and you need to train your mind to not pay attention to it. So
Bingo. Hmm.
when you do the affirmations and you do the training to and put your hands on, the back of your head, and say, my subconscious is only going to pay to attention to things that are constructive and
Yep.
for my highest good. And you just have to continuously be in that. And
Hmm.
like you said, it's very good to help you get the footing of ignoring and disconnecting from it
Hmm.
by focusing on outdoor sounds. Open a
Hmm.
window if you're not hearing enough in your environment, a fan, like you said, water, any background noise that is not that is where you put your attention,
Yeah.
instead of giving them the power in that moment to
Yes.
because it's a
Yeah.
distraction.
It is.
It's a
There's a
distraction.
book called The Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox that I've read, and I'm rereading it now. But one of the biggest things it talks about when it discussed, the Beatitudes, it talks about with any new difficulty of any kind, it is the reception that you give it mentally and the attitude that you adopt towards it in your thought that completely determine its effect upon you. That's it's not the conduct of others, but your own thoughts that make or break you. And you write your own history for tomorrow and for next year by the thoughts that we entertain today. And that's how we mold. And again, like you said, it doesn't come like that. It takes lots of time. But there's lots of great positive, our attitudes, everything. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, wrote Man's
Mm-hmm.
Search for Meaning, right? He talked about
Mm-hmm.
how every human freedom can be taken from a man except for the choice to choose one's attitude in any given situation, regardless of the circumstances. And you
Absolutely.
know,
We have to retrain that inner critic, right? We need
yep,
to focus. We need to give ourselves grace. We're,
yes,
we're we're navigating something that most could never, and that is the reality.
yeah,
But here we are. We were chosen and we were selected to be a part of this, and we have God's favor on us, and we
mhm,
can reclaim our personal power, and just it really can be. And I know for some it's fairly hard to understand this,
yeah,
but this journey can be, and it has for me. It's taught me so much about myself and how strong and resilient that I am, that
yes,
I refuse to let this defeat me. And that there is no other option. I just refuse to let it,
Right.
defeat me. With every breath that is in and every fiber of my being, I will
Yeah.
never relent to
Yeah.
these
Never give up.
tactics. Never,
No,
ever.
never.
Because we don't deserve this, and we're going to kick it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so how do you navigate through
Hmm?
a day that has been particularly tough?
That's a great question, Melissa. Honestly, I go to praying. I try to find opportunities to give, whether it's, a few, like $5, $10 to somebody that needs it on the street that's obviously worse off than I am at the moment. Opportunities to give, encouraging words to others. I buy these Jesus loves you bracelets and I hand them out to strangers to spark
Mhm,
up a conversation with them and just let them know that they're valued and that they're loved in case
mhm.
no one's told them that today. And I usually start telling them, with everything going on in the state of the world,
Yeah.
and every single person, I kid you not, is like, they always agree with me. I always say, I think it's important for us to stay united because we're all in this together.
Yes, we
The
are.
light and the dark. God has
Mm,
a purpose for everyone. And when we walk around, angry, and resentful, we just end up hurting ourselves, which is not what we want to do. But a lot of times that's what happened. That's kind of the pattern when this all starts. But also, as far as navigating through a difficult day, I also fasting. Sorry, fasting is I think
mhm,
it's like a best kept secret. I never
mhm,
even knew about it, or I never knew that it applied to me. Like I thought it was for certain religions or something, but it's really I do the Daniel fast, and that's just eating any food that grows throughout the ground.
mhm,
And you can do a 3-day one or a 21-day one. But the point is, you're giving, like, I love sweets, I love sugar. I'm giving something up, for my creator. And then I spend as much time as I can praying. It's basically praying, but like on steroids,
mhm.
added in, giving up something that you like.
Yeah.
And there's lots of other, lots, I know eventually you guys, also, we should probably, okay, to me, and I'm going to say this because I've been on both sides of this. Let's not spend our time trying to figure out who is a perp and who is a TI, because let's just try to trust God to do his job. He's going to hold every single one of us accountable. He will. Be patient, put in the effort to speak the truth, and leave the outcomes up to God, or your higher power, or the universe,
Mhm,
or anything, or maybe even whatever your higher power. It could be just this group, this community. But a lot of people, most people just don't have an outlet to talk about it. So we need to have faith, have more faith, that we put the effort, take the actions, he brings the outcome. Because to me, getting out of myself and taking action is the number one way that I forget my problems, Melissa.
mhm,
I coached boys soccer for 5 years. And when I'm
mhm,
telling you, I'm on the field playing soccer with those little guys, I don't think about myself for hours. Or if I'm having a tough day, pick up the phone. I call somebody in the community. When I first met Richard, that's what we would do. He would, we had lots of women who wanted to talk to other women.
mhm,
And he would just send me, and I would just, we'd just be on the phone talking to people. Hours would go by. It felt like minutes.
mhm.
And I didn't think about myself once. And a
Right.
lot of times that's what we have to do, is let our feet move and let our brain follow.
Yes. Amen. That is so true. So true.
Yeah.
So you are involved with a lot with targeted justice. Speaking of targeted justice, so how did you learn about targeted justice?
Melissa, I actually saw I believe it was a Facebook invite to our monthly meeting at Onion Creek
Uh-huh.
Cafe.
Uh-huh.
And I just, thought, you know what? Let's go try this out. And I went there and I didn't know what to expect. And I saw a big targeted justice, like almost like a real estate for sale sign, on the table. And
Yeah.
the first person I met, Richard Lighthouse.
Uh-huh.
Can't say enough good things about that man. I've seen him help so many people and save people's lives. It's been a long journey. And, I talked to him, I met Armando and Jazz and my friend Melody, who started the Victory through V2K. And we had a very tight inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
and then Anna joined us. And so that was my first. And then after that, we all just kind of kept hanging out. But because you know why? Because Richard and then they took the time to bring us together to
Mm-hmm.
build relationships with each other. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yes, when I first found out about targeted justice, it was actually last year. And
One,
see how quickly things move when
yes.
God has a plan. So here I am doing a podcast. So,
Amazing.
but yes, the very first
There,
meeting that I
yeah.
went to, Richard was there, and he takes time to speak with anyone new and
Yep.
anyone who's attending, and to answer questions.
I know.
The last meetup that we had, someone drove all the way from California to Texas to be
Wow.
at that meeting. So, and you hear in the stories, and we all have a common thread in
We
these
did.
stories and how this has impacted our lives. So these monthly meetups are really, really awesome, and it
Mhm.
gets you out of the house, and
Yeah.
you
It's
have
kind of like
something.
an AA meeting, but like a TI meeting,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's that camaraderie. And Richard's very, very positive and inspirational. I mean, he's the one that tried, that he's very, very good. He always told me, you guys, you should start a women's TI site, that's a whole
Mhm.
other story. We're getting
Mhm.
there, but we
Yeah.
tried. And everything in this community, it just takes time. It takes time. We have to be patient,
Yeah,
because it's just a matter of time before victory is achieved.
exactly. I mean, we've had some really major wins. There's more and more stuff coming out about this. And,
And
this is long covert stuff. It's been around for a long time. So we're poking the bear,
yeah,
and we just have to keep poking. We cannot relent. We cannot relent.
I
So
agree.
when did you become a volunteer for Targeted Justice?
I became a volunteer right about that same time, actually. After I had a few meetings with Richard and our little inner circle group, I started by answering emails. And unfortunately, I don't know if anybody knows all this, but you know we have a lot of views on our newsletter, and the organization's growing like crazy. But as far as answering emails, we only have like 10 to 12 volunteers who we just do the best we can in the time that we have when we're not working or hanging out with our kids or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so emails, and then like I said, he started sending me women who wanted to just talk on the phone. I think I even spoke to Anna at one point before she came over here. And
Uh-huh.
everyone has a story. I just remember talking to people, and they're like, wow, I haven't laughed and I cannot tell you how long. And it touched my heart, because I
Mm-hmm.
just knew that this is what God had something planned. And
Absolutely.
volunteering, and all it was is, I love people. It was just talking to people, and
Mm-hmm.
especially people like me, and we can talk about all kinds of stuff that you can't tell normies
Right.
yet,
I mean, it's so enriching when you find someone who really understands
you know
you and what you're going through. So there's no reason to sit and not have that. You can connect to others. We have a live
connect.
chat here.
Yes.
Just reach out, and if you want to connect with others, just provide your information so people can connect with you. I can't say enough. Get on social media.
Yeah.
X is really booming with a lot of targeted individuals. Facebook is,
Mm.
it's just so censored.
Yeah.
I posted a video out there yesterday, and then it literally afterwards crashed my
Wow.
Facebook. Every time I would try to click on something, it was
Yeah. I
giving
know.
a
I don't
weird
even. I
error,
just
and I
go to
had to
Gab.
reinstall.
I go to, have you ever been to gab.com?
No, I haven't.
It's kind of like a God-based, I think, or at least a lot more open. They don't censor, and
Mhm.
it's a lot more open-minded. I feel like it's more of a faith-based community. It's like Facebook, but you can post things on there, post the
Oh,
news, read. I mean, it's all in this community.
and
I
that's
like that. Yeah.
gab.com. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'll have to
Just
check
Gab.
that out. I have not heard
Yeah.
of that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, sometimes when I need the news, and then that's
Yeah.
one of the places I go to get the real news.
Yeah, that's right. Because I don't turn on the TV. I'm like,
Exactly.
that's fun narrative. So I'm
I
like,
know.
no, I'm not turning that on. Uh,
Exactly.
so can you? I know that one of the first things that I attended when I found out about targeted justice was the Victory Through V2K call. And at that time, Melody was hosting it. And I'll never forget it because it was so great to be able to hear people talking about this. And I was like, oh my gosh,
I know.
because I had put my research and because there just wasn't a lot in 2012. And I had just kind of,
Mhm.
you know, figured out a way to navigate, but then something told me that I needed to check the pulse and see where the research and if there were others
Same.
out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, it had imploded. It was like night and day with all this information, targeted justice website, and
Same.
all of these
Yeah.
events. And so Victory Through V2K was the first one, the conference call that I attended, and I just fell in love with it because it
Mhm.
was so awesome. Have guests, and then the community can talk with one another and
Mhm.
express what they're going through, introduce themselves. It's a great way to meet people. So can you tell us a little bit about Victory Through V2K?
Sure, absolutely. I do have to give all the credit to Melly because she started it. This was her idea. And I, and I know she's still around and doing things in the community. But every now and then I think it's great that we're all close enough that we can, hand stuff off to each other and have other people help us.
Yeah,
And again, like you said, it's about that connection. But the
yeah.
Victory V2K call, we're actually it's bi-weekly, on Monday nights, 8:30 Central, I believe. It's a great call. I ended up taking it over after I started working with an amazing team of ladies at Targeted Justice. And um, so basically it's just a call for people that have V2K, or are hit with direct energy weapons, whatever. No two people's experience is the same, but
Mm-hmm.
it started as kind of like a support call, and now it's more of a solution based meeting. And we're going to turn it into a podcast. We
Mm-hmm.
want to increase the viewership. At the same time, we want to hear what people have to say, and especially the people that are new and are on there and are like, hey, this is the first time I've ever been on a call. My name is, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for people to do that. So it's great.
Yes, it's such a special call, and I love it. So I do. Let me bring up. I created a slide. Let me get to that. Here we go. So the Victory Through V2K is bi-weekly. It's every other Monday. The next one is going to be on Monday, May 5th. It's 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 Central, and 6:30 Pacific time. And I have on there the website is hosted through free conference call, and the dial in phone number, the access code is there, and the meeting
Aw,
ID. So all of
thank
that is up
you.
there for everyone. I highly encourage you to check it out. It really is special. Who is it? Do you know who your guest is going to be for the fifth?
Actually, speaking of, I just want to give a shout out to the team of women that I am working with. I know you mentioned Tranquility. I have got my team has, I believe, 10 just amazing women who are also TIs going through this battle. And we've got we actually just broke it down to where every team member is going to be responsible for booking a guest. And we
Mhm.
already have a couple people lined up.
Mhm.
We're also going, last Monday, I believe, we're also I included a co-host. So we're
Yes.
trying a few new things to see if we can spice it up. We always
Oh,
need,
good.
always having new blood is great. If
Yeah.
anybody ever has any ideas, that's, please, bring them to us. But a lot of it is we're trying to get informative, things, or, doctors, anything that helps the community. DJ Chris was on there last Monday.
Yes. DJ
So
Chris is awesome. He's
yeah,
a host of Targeted West.
yep,
So he's
he
got
is.
so much information out there. Check out his YouTube channel. He's
Yeah.
got lots of videos about
Hmm.
all things targeting. I think
Yeah.
it's just under 200 videos. It's a great library. We just have to feed ourselves with the knowledge. We take our experience. This has gone on for 20 since 2012 for me. We
Yeah.
take the wisdom that we've learned so we can share that with others, so they
Yeah.
don't have to from the ground zero struggle through this. We are lifting one another up, and every day I am seeing such encouraging things and new information that is
Yeah.
shared through our beautiful community. And that's
Mhm.
that's how we do this is how we combat this.
Yeah, and I love how I want everyone to have, a lot of the girls that are on my team, they started their own ventures. I mean, for instance, Tranquility does TI events, and
Mm-hmm.
TI Jane started VineSisters.com, which is
Mm-hmm.
a community of faith-based for women.
Right.
And it's designed to empower them and mentor them and you know what I mean? And just build each other up instead of what we've gotten used to from this whole, tragedy of being beaten down. Um, and then, some of the people on my team are amazing in PR and communications and the things that they're putting together and just the time that everyone is spending to, to just to get to know each other and to grow and to get these projects out in the open. It's been,
Can you tell us about some of the projects that your team
of
is and
course,
your team is Team
Team
Liberty?
Liberty. Yes,
Yes.
and my shout out to my Team Liberty. Yeah, I couldn't do any of this without them. I couldn't. We do like a weekly call where we check in. But basically, one of the biggest projects we're working on right now is a public service announcement project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basically, what we're trying to do is identify radio stations and podcasts that are willing to run like a 14 to 29-second public service announcement. Uh, so if any of you out there have any contacts to, podcasts or other radio stations,
Yeah.
that would be able to do that. We're going to start with the US, even though I think there might be a rule stating that they don't make a lot of the stations. So we're also going to look internationally.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to, for instance, one suggestion was something that I think Richard came up with, just an idea. It's, according to the National Academies of Science, Havana syndrome is caused by post-radio frequency weapons. These torture weapons have been pointed at many civilians all over the world for years. This illegal program is funded by the CIA, and these torture weapons are operated by the U.S. Space Force from Schriever Air Force Base. Please help us stop this illegal torture program. Please get involved. Visit www.targetedjustice.com. And so I have a team working on this project. We're also looking at some fundraising efforts, possibly doing a magazine or a 5K. Any ideas are welcomed. We're able to get together, maybe even hold a contest for a video or an ad or a skit or something. I want to do something humorous as well. And someone was suggested, trying to find like a resource hub. At one point, we wanted to do like back in the day, Melody and I wanted to do like a Cura, is that how you say it? Quora.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like that, have like a resource like that for our community. And so, and again, one of the best things about my team is we have a group chat. And so we're always keeping each other, in the know and abreast of certain situations. I mean, everything that goes on, this is how I get my news is from my team. And from recently Tulsi Gabbard repealing the Patriot Act and all these declassified documents coming out. That was another meeting that happened last night. Someone thought they found the experimental targeting program. It's just all these things are coming out. And I wouldn't know a lot of it if it wasn't for my team. We're always sharing information with each other. We want to end up doing a billboard campaign and have a V2K specialist network that we're looking at doing. And there's a lot of projects right now in the making, and we're having to vote on which ones to put first. But we definitely are trying to collaborate with other organizations. I would love to collaborate just like with you, but also with the Vine Sisters and TI events and maybe even PAX. I mean, that's down the line. I would love if all of us could connect. I think
Yeah.
it shows power and strength in numbers. And, we're all on the same team.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that we band together and not attack one another either.
Yes.
We're human. We're going through a very
Yeah.
wild experience that is very, we're constantly navigating and countering, what is being
Right.
done to us.
Right.
And we're moving forward and we're plugging back into life and we're doing good for ourselves.
Yeah.
And, we have to continue to have a win each day, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Some days are a little tougher than others, but, just even if it's a small win, then that's a win.
Yeah.
So just be mindful that we're human too, and sometimes you
We are.
don't know what someone else is going through during that moment, and they may be a little overly direct, and then that gets spread around, and someone was just having a bad day. So give people some grace in this too,
Yeah.
and just
I agree.
focus on the good fight of what we're doing here. I know that you had mentioned on one of your calls from Victory through V2K that you were thinking about getting a book together, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, remember those books, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then it started out Chicken Soup for the, fill in the blank soul.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wanting to put an ebook together that's
Mm-hmm.
Chicken Soup for the TI soul. And what I other than, and it's great if any of you have any stories, that's what we're trying to do is compile stories from TI warriors and survivors that have been
Mm-hmm.
going through this for years. And what I want to point out, I mean, all the stories or any story are great, but especially I want people to send in the story of the God moments. Those little moments where you're like, that's a God thing. Something we're going through, and all of a sudden you realize that, oh my gosh, whatever's happening right now, in my life is a blessing. And we all have those stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very cathartic for everyone to write their story. I did it once with Melody and another friend of ours, and it was very cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
It was great to get it all out on paper.
Right. It's
And
very therapeutic
yeah,
to, then when you're starting to write your story, you understand what you have gone through and conquered,
yes.
and you can see your milestones in
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
and the progress that you've made.
Yeah.
It
So I
can
mean, yeah. If
it's
anyone wants to send stories in, please do. My email is should I put it in the chat, or I can just say it's LindsayJPenn,
okay. Let
LIND.
me put it in there.
Okay, sorry. LINDSAY Penn, PENN, at proton.me. And it'd be great if any stories you guys have, as a TI, especially, the inspirational ones, the ones that lift us up and remind us that this is a spiritual form of warfare, and that, we're supposed to be helping humans, and we're fighting, the enemy, and that's how, those are principalities and powers in the other places in the spirit realm. So I just think that, yeah, I think just compiling those stories, if you guys, have those stories about those God moments that have happened, and I think that's what can really lift the community up, is something like that.
Absolutely. I see that we've put your email in the chat, so it's there. If someone would like to volunteer to be a part of Team Liberty, would they reach out to the same email?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if anybody would like to volunteer, I'm over public relations and communications for Targeted Justice. I mean, I'm the VP of it, and so if anyone has any experience in the communications sector, or you have any, whether it's something you do for a living, or you have a passion for it, or maybe you even have a connection, to other networks that we can get this information out. Anything is helpful. And now
Absolutely.
we could
Yes.
always use more volunteers, and that'd be great. So please do.
Well, this is, and one of the questions that I forgot to ask you is, what shielding, like mental shielding and physical shielding, have you found effective for you?
As far as shielding, that to me, first it was the V2K was the hardest thing for me to deal with, and then once I finally did, like I mentioned earlier, once I finally worked on the mentally shielding part, then it's kind of like happened in phases. Then the direct energy weapons occurred, and hitting me in my kidneys really hard, and and then just the forced body movements where I feel like a human puppet half the time. And a lot of I would say I drink as much water as possible. I Whenever I'm being hit, I found something online. I mean, some people are using the Cyber Shield. I use Armando's Silent Night as well. I think everyone responds to it differently, but I found one of these little fanny packs online, and it has you has a little Velcro and a little water bottle in it, and I just put it over the area of my body that I'm being hit. Um, or some people are being hit in the heart, get a water bag. I know Anna does that all the time. Bags of water over the heart, or water seems to be the best thing. But there's so many new things coming out on the market, and basically I think a lot of it for me, shielding is just taking action. If I'm being hit, I get up and I exercise. I go for at least a 45-minute walk every day. And I try to live from a position of strength, and it didn't used to be that way, you guys. I used to be extremely depressed, couldn't get out of bed, didn't want to try anymore. I mean, trust me, it's been a long journey, and I know what many of you have gone through, and I know it's hell. But I also know that, it has made me stronger, and I wouldn't be the person I am today, had I not gone on this exact journey. Um, and I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying that I don't get mad at them, because I do. I'm like Melissa said, I'm human just like the rest of us. But I do believe that the shielding, other than just sitting back and protecting your body with different things, to me, I also have to focus on that mental shielding, which to me, it takes action. Just get up and go do something, stay busy, and then eventually, before I know it, it's gone, or not, or at least something else is happening, and I get distracted.
Yes, I find that, especially with the directed energy, like you said, you've got to keep yourself busy. You can't succumb to it. It's grounding, physical exercise, some kind of physical movement. I have one of these, it's a vibration plate that goes back and forth.
Oh,
I bought it because I get a lot of swelling in my legs
yes.
and feet and ankles,
Yeah.
because to help keep that lymphatic system draining, because it's backed up from the attack and the
Yeah.
inflammation response that's in your body.
Yes.
So when I'm under attack and when I get on that, either if I'm sitting down or if I stand on it,
Hmm.
sometimes I'll even sit on it, because we need to make sure that we keep, our neck and shoulders loose. And I carry a lot of tension
Yes.
in my shoulders
Yeah.
and my
Me
upper
too.
back and neck. So, but
Mhm.
just doing maneuvers to kind of loosen things up and to keep
Right.
that energy flowing in the
Mhm.
vibration plate.
Yeah.
I think it's by Life Pro. I could post it on
Yeah.
my X page, but it helps when you're under that. It somehow or another, it just seems like it cuts through that signal that
Oh
is
yeah.
being released
Yeah.
on
You know,
you.
our adrenal glands are like going, 10, million hours. I mean, I get my it's like we've been forced to live in a state of shock, and our adrenal glands are on overload.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
constantly, living in the middle of our like adrenaline response.
Yeah,
And so I have blood flow problems, for instance. Like sometimes I can't even feel my blood flow unless my husband, massages me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this blood flow. But like you said, I mean, I think it's definitely worth, trying different things, especially if
just
it
have
if
to
it's
experiment.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I've tried many of things, like a little hat that you can put in the freezer if you're getting like a lot of
Yes.
burning on your head. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've been having a lot on the temple area, like one
Yes.
side or the other, and you could see my veins coming out and everything because of all of that.
Hmm.
But you just have to keep, trying different things,
Yeah.
the until you find something that works, and what worked one day may not work the next, and then just go try something else. Whatever you can do, be
Yeah.
creative with it. And that's what it's all about, and not letting, because if you sit there with it and you're frozen with it, then it just seems like it amplifies it.
It does. I
And
think
then
that like you mentioned at the beginning, you say you've done studies on isolation,
mhm,
being such a horrible thing for us. I agree. I think the way to beat this thing is connection.
it
Is
is.
we have to connect with other people. I mean, look at the COVID thing, right? They made us sit 6 feet apart. They're trying to disconnect us as a society. It's so important for us, especially as TIs in this community, to connect to each other, whether it's just calling each other or anything, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about, lending a helping hand.
Yeah.
You might be a shoulder for someone to cry on, or to lend a very compassionate ear, and then you might need it, and they help you.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. There's nobody like us in this community that understands what each and every one of us is going through.
Absolutely.
And even though some of our family and friends may be on trying to support us, but they don't know how, because they're not living it, they're not breathing it every single day. And so our community is just so precious.
Mhm.
And don't be shy. This is the time to
Yeah.
be shy. Just reach out in connection for others,
Mhm.
and you will feel so much better knowing that you are understood, and
Oh yeah.
there's compassion within our community to help you. Um,
Absolutely.
should we answer a few questions now? I've been trying to
Sure.
take a look.
Absolutely.
Let me find. Here's
Sure.
one. All right. So, Battle for Your Brain says, wow, it's too late for me. I wish I had found this community before the system had taken everything and entrapped me permanently. And I just want to, give you an encouraging word. I know things may seem like they're not reversible, but with time and action, you can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what exactly your circumstances are, but I know that there have been people within our community that were homeless or
Mhm.
living out of their car, and they pave the way, and it just and again, lean on the community to help assist you and to give you guidance in your personal circumstances. And never forget to connect with, God and the universe too, to pave the way and what action that, you can take.
Yeah.
Perhaps there is community shelters, or getting back into the workforce programs too, and to do as a first step and reclaiming things for you. And again, just leverage the community. Lindsay, do you have some advice?
Absolutely. It breaks my heart because I've been there. My family, they didn't. I also felt that they were subliminally, mind controlled against me, obviously on purpose, like many, our family members are, through this horrible program. But it's not too late. I'm telling you, people. I think I had a friend back in the day, that even told me, you know what, I think you just suck at life. Like, just own it, and you know what, like, and that was right before this started and they didn't know about this, but don't you let this that's happening to you, don't let it take away your spirit. Don't let it take away your heart and your compassion. Don't let it take away your desire to live, because I forgot how to live, Melissa, for a long time. I didn't have any
Me,
hobbies. I was
yeah.
in a bleak addiction. And to me, the 12 steps are amazing. I think they work for everybody. The only one of those 12 steps, that mentions alcohol or whatever, fill in the blank, food, sex, drugs, it doesn't matter. It's because we have a spiritual deficiency. Once our spirit is corrected, once we're right, all the mental and the physical stuff falls into place. That is the precipice of the AA program in general. And honestly, I think it works for everybody in life. Once I got off my butt, started going, to my meetings, and I started, getting out a sponsor. I worked the steps. Even if you're not, you don't have any issues, or you're an Al-Anon, even if you've never touched anything in your entire life, it's a program for self-growth. And I didn't know what I had in me until I did it, you guys. I didn't know. And then I had women asking me to sponsor them. I mean, I didn't think that I had anything to offer anybody when all of this, for years. We get it. We get the pain you're in. Just don't ever give up. My dad was a POW in Vietnam for 8 months. He always told me, never give up, never ever give up.
Right. We cannot let this defeat us.
No.
There is nothing that says that we are not worthy. That's a
Right.
lie that is being served by these programs.
Yep.
We just have to rise up and reclaim ourselves and our power and our connection with others.
Absolutely, Melissa. You're right.
And Jay from the islands says, what has helped me was using healing frequencies like the Savigio app, and including, I haven't heard of that one, Zakios videos.
Yeah, I haven't either. I haven't heard of
I
that.
have to check into that.
Me too.
So he made certain audio files on his YouTube channel. Awesome.
That is cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I am all about the sounds, the healing sounds and frequencies. I love music. And I think it's so important music is so therapeutic. You can find connection through the lyrics, and, feed your soul with, uplifting, inspiring music and soothing, peaceful music and vibrations.
Absolutely. I listen to praise and worship music most of the time, even if I don't want to,
Yes, and I find that, the adversaries, don't like that. So I like playing it on a regular. So
It's all about the state of our mind. And once we start moving forward, God, I mean, I had a girl in my, a young lady on my team remind me that the last week when she was on our call, that, the enemy has to ask God's permission to do some of these things, to do these things to us. Like we're children of God. Okay. We're gonna get through this. He's gonna give us everything we need, even though it seems very bleak. But I love hearing different things that everybody has that they do that helps them.
Yes. And Cece says, I have the noise of crickets and locusts and then a fax machine noise sometimes screaming in my head nonstop for the past 11 years. I'm doing the best I can. Yes, those high pitched, cricket, it sounds like metal crickets, locusts, and that ringing.
Yeah.
A lot of times, with me, I have the B2K, so I'll get most of it is hit on the left. And then when you feel the connection, and then comes the ringing, and then the burning. So the thermoelastic effect is happening when you're getting that burning and that pressure, and then it just kind of radiates. And there has been times over the years too that I would I would wake up feeling that and feeling my body heat with the connection.
Oh yeah.
It's just like they connect in and out. They try to do read write on us, like we're, a software or something. But
exactly, I know they try.
Yeah, they try, but we just have to recognize, okay, this is that. And then you go into your countermeasures for it.
Exactly.
And that's what you have to do.
You're right. It's so important, Melissa. So important, like you said, to take action, and that can be the positive affirmations. Something, read the Sermon on the Mount, or The Way of the Warrior. I mean, there's so many books out there that are uplifting, and I love, getting new information. And I know it's not easy all the time. I have plenty of horrible days, just like everybody else,
Yes,
just try something different,
Exactly. And the things that we could do, we got to nurture our body, because our body is taking such a hit, right? And so we have to nurture our temple, and we need to do our best to eat clean and things that are not as toxic, because that's polluting the system, and our buckets are already overflowing as it is. And to incorporate in some kind of detoxing too.
Yes.
That's one thing that I really am wanting to discuss on the X channel, or in a future episode too, is ways that we can economically do the detoxing, things that are nurturing for our brain. So one thing that I personally do is I try my best, either 14 to 16 hours without food, to just let my body kind of reset itself. And I also do not do any sugar, and I don't do any seed oils, because those can be highly inflammatory to the body, and already have swelling and fluid retention and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But lemon is so cleansing, and so I do the purified water with the lemon juice in it, and then sea salt, like Redmond sea salt, because that's very cleansing, especially it cuts the inflammation. So I feel better by doing that. And by like nuts and high fat, like grass-fed butter, the olive oil, coconut oil, I've said it before, MCT8 oil is brain fuel. So I take 2 tablespoons of bulletproof MCT8 oil, and I put that in my coffee. And I put collagen in that too, because when we're under constant attack with these frequencies, you've got to have the water, like Lindsay said. We got to hydrate ourselves, because we're being
we're being rapidly aged.
Yeah, because
have you done the detox? Have you done the detox bath with Epsom salt and borax?
I need to do that. That's on my list.
I'm telling you, I have girls on my team have done it, for years, and I did my first one 6 months ago. 2 cups Epsom salt, hottest water you can find.
2 cups.
1 cup borax. It's a detergent. and you put that, in the hottest water you can stand, for, hopefully like 30 minutes at least. And I'm telling you, watching this stuff come out of my body, we don't realize all the stuff
Really?
that goes in our body. And I
Wow.
just watched it come out, like that's coming off of me. And
Wow.
I felt a lot lighter, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
after that first one. And now I do them. I think a lot of people are starting to do those baths regularly, like frequently. And it made me feel better every time I do it.
I'm gonna have to do that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to do that because I've heard really good things. So 2 cups of Epsom salt and 1
Mhm.
cup of borax.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, it'll be interesting. I know that you have to think our skin is our biggest organ. We forget about
Mhm.
that. But with all of the stuff in the air and
Right.
all of the stuff that is being done to us, it's under attack.
It sure is.
And it is a pathway for things to get into our system, right?
Exactly.
So that's why it's so important for us to find ways to keep our body clean, because I feel like it makes us less receptive
It does.
to being that human antenna of what this technology does. And
Yeah, that's what they're saying, right? Our skin is
yeah,
basically, they're using it as an
yeah,
antenna.
because these
Yeah.
particles are attaching to us that are making us more highly receptive. There's
Yeah.
just so many ways that this can all happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, Robert Duncan said that there are hundreds of these programs, right? And depending on which one you're in, your experience could be a little bit different and
Right.
varying with others, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to perfect the craft of this hostile takeover, bio takeover
Yeah.
of what they do, because it's all about competition, right? Staying
Hmm.
a leading edge over, and other countries and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're in the crossfires of that. So I don't consent to be an experiment to
Oh, me
them
neither.
perfecting their warcraft,
I
right?
know. And you mentioned being an empath, Melissa. I know they do. I've noticed. Half my team at least are empaths. I meet new TIs every day, and one of the girls on my team made a good comment. How she said, her name is Jill. How better to train AI than use empaths, right?
Right.
I was
But
like, oh,
here's the
boom.
And it was interesting that you say that, because on the call that I had with Jamie Rice yesterday, which it's teaching you these mental shielding and the counter terrorism against this AI and these programs,
Hmm.
we have the ability to become our own AI, because we're intercepting this and we're flipping it. And because the inner healing, and we're creating that space and that resilience from these attacks that are being done. We're recognizing them, we're
Hmm.
sitting with it, and we're releasing what emotions that come to us as a result of these attacks. So again, I probably need to get those out. I thought I did the first 2 videos on my YouTube channel for Chosen Heroes. I need to upload the one from yesterday, but I'm also considering developing a website for Chosen Heroes that it has everything as a one-stop shop, and you don't have to be subscribed to,
Oh, cool.
one social media or another to get the information. But
Right.
again, that you got to find time for that, and
I
maybe
know.
maybe some good volunteers to help me lift that up off the ground.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
it is. Let's see if we have another one.
Sure. And if anybody needs anyone and a life coach, I'm working on starting that. So if anybody, I've already had a few clients, but I always give, I don't charge much, and I give a percentage back to targeted justice. That way, at least, I feel like I'm doing something to help the community. Um, but yeah, if anyone's interested, you can email me.
Here's one. Tammy says, for us who list everything and are in isolation, it would be great if someone could give us free or major discount in prices. I mean, it's if we could get some partnership on maybe things that would be helpful to those in the community to get that discount, that would be great. That
It would.
might be something that, some of the teams we could do to see if people could partner in discount because
Yeah. Maybe we could get somebody to sponsor us. I know there's a lot of TIs out there, and one person in particular on my team who sponsors people to get, every now and then to get scans or other things that they need. And I would be willing to. I don't have a whole lot of money, but yeah, I'd be willing to put the effort in, and like you said, maybe start a project. So if anyone has ideas like that, yeah, tell us what you need, and hopefully we can find a way to get there.
Tammy also had said, how do you even function? Just like anything, it just takes time and practice.
Patience, time.
Yes. And then the determination that you're just not going to let it defeat you. And you just start out with one win a day. Just keep building them up and know that you can get through this, and leverage the community to help lift you up, give you guidance and some directions. Some of us have been in this for a long time. It's not something that is easily achieved overnight.
No, Tammy,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Tammy, this is the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my entire life.
It is, but it just once you start building up your resilience and your motivation. That today I remember I stayed a long time with anger, and I was this is ridiculous. How much longer am I going to have to sit here and be subjected to this madness and this craziness? I don't deserve this.
Right.
You have to really start thinking into the terms of you don't deserve this. There's nothing that you did that warrants what has been done to you. Nothing on this earth. So don't buy into that garbage that is sold by V2K or just the programs in general. Nobody deserves to do this. But you have to get to that place where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to sit in this anger mode anymore. I'm going to turn my anger and I'm going to make it constructive instead of destructive.
Right.
Because that anger is only destroying me.
It is. It's like drinking poison and hoping hoping they die. It's a silly cliche, I know, but you're right, Melissa.
I spent in a lot of time too going because, I can be creative thinking of ways that these people need to suffer because of what they've done. And that's not fruitful for me either, because instead of focusing on what needs to happen to them, give it over to God and free up some space to, start making positive movements in my own life and reclaiming my power. And because I would just, sit and be in the house, and, my mother was targeted as well because, after I was targeted, she got targeted and I was her caretaker. So we had each other, but then that was still very isolating. So I started dipping the toe back and getting back into, music. I wasn't listening to my music. I wasn't going to see live music anymore. I wasn't doing the things that I used to love and enjoy. I wasn't riding my bike. I wasn't doing anything but just sitting there.
Yeah,
that's
me too.
This mess. And that's where you have that's the biggest trap of all of this.
Yes.
It's keeping you trapped in a hole. And you've got to climb out of that and say, no more, not today.
And you can.
Not today.
That you can and you will. Yes. All you gotta do is try one little thing at a time.
Exactly. And you've got to want it, and you have to chase it. And it's your mantra that you are moving forward out of this. Because they're going to try, once you try to make movement forward, they're going to try to get you back stuck. So you just have to, use that as confirmation. Well, I'm doing something right because they're trying to get me stuck again. And I'm just going to keep on moving and keep on grooving, right? That's what you have to do.
Yeah. It feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes, but that's okay. Like you said, be kind to yourself.
Give
Love
yourself
yourself.
grace.
I used to be
Yeah.
so hard on myself, and after all of this, I just nowadays I can tell you I love myself, and that took a lot of time, and I was through a divorce, and I read a lot of Brene Brown, and she talks about
Hmm.
vulnerability and connection and boundaries. I didn't know what a boundary was. When my all this started, I couldn't say no, to people. I just, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of growth to be had in this community. So stay connected.
Exactly. The connection is key. Yeah, they don't. I mean, we are this dirty secret that nobody wants to talk about, but we're not going to take that, and we're going to get in out there. We're going to use the greatest weapon we have is our voice and our story, right?
Yes,
That
ma'am.
to let people know that this is being done. Some people, it's a little much for them to even try to digest this, but
Mhm.
when you're going out there and you're sharing this information, they just consider it as a seed that God will activate within them, and at some time it will, and they're going to explore out and research on their own. It's like that saying, you can't feed a baby a steak. It's too much for them to digest right now, but at some point, with all that is going on, because it's going to be continuous waves of awareness of things that we have been so misled for so long on so many fronts.
I know.
And
You're right.
the public is, finding out that, oh, well, that was a lie, and that was a lie, and
It's
well,
hard.
that's a cover up, and our
It
government was involved with that cover up.
right?
I mean, your whole world starts shattering.
It
For
does.
us, we already went through that,
Right.
because when this started happening to us, that imploded our world. And when we reached out to those that are sworn to serve and protect, they were there, you know, part of the PSYOP, saying that
I
we were
know.
crazy people and that they didn't know what we were talking about.
Right?
So,
If I hear that anymore, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't
yeah,
know. My
yeah.
PTA used to say that to me all the time. That and you're the easiest target ever. They target people with vulnerabilities. It's horrific.
Well,
It's like you have
obviously,
to grieve. You have to grieve that loss of what you've been taught versus now what we know.
I think there's just a very serious misconception about people who are empathetic and empaths and very feeling and caring, that we are easy manipulated. You know, the way that I look at this experience is the greatest power it had over me is when it first began, because you're like, what in the world is this?
Exactly.
And I was like, I always had very sensitive hearing, as even as a child. Even it was so off the charts. They couldn't even measure it. That's how it was. And
Wow.
it was a very painful experience for me, to the point where I was always having to wear earplugs just to be normal, because I could hear everything. And then here comes B2K, when I'm already sensitive to this, and I'm like, these evil people are doing this. And of course,
Yeah.
the moment you say anything about voices, everybody's like, are you
Oh, I know.
okay?
I
So,
know.
I
It's
mean, it's such a perfect rigged
ugh,
thing
it
for it.
is.
But we're stronger than this. And as you go, if as you navigate through this and you've been through it, you know when and how to say things
Mhm.
without saying too much to get into all of that. That's why the community
Right.
is important. But at
Mhm.
the same time, when we're sitting there and informing the public about it, we need to have the documentation or the experts discussing the auditory effects.
Right.
Robert Duncan and others that have been part of these high classified agencies that are behind these things, then it's digestible. Then it's like, oh, there's something that matches what she's said. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just not like, oh, these people that I used to work with are communicating to me, or it's their voice. We know that they have this voice parroting systems. They can take a sound clip recording from
Oh yeah.
somebody that you know,
Yep.
and loaded and just start typing in the phrases or programs to condition you thinking that it is. We
That
know it
person.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to understand that. We have to get on the other side of it because this is very sophisticated technology,
Right.
all geared at mentally breaking us down and making us seem to discredit us and to character assassinate us so that the
Yes.
truth doesn't come out about what has been done against us.
Right.
And there's so many people around the world that this is happening to, they don't even realize that it's happening to them. They think it's
I
a
know.
string of bad luck. They think
Right.
that they're questioning their own
Or
sanity.
dementia.
Yeah.
Like, since when do like all the 30 and 40-year-olds all of a sudden have dementia? I mean,
The Havana syndrome, the stuff that they do. I was tested last year. I do have the vestibular damage. My
yes,
balance
me
is
too.
off.
Oh yeah.
It's because of these attacks.
Yes.
These attacks have been going on for a long time. So we, as a community, need to raise awareness that about the Havana syndrome as a result of the directed energy weapons that are being used against us in these
Yeah.
unacknowledged special access programs, these
Yeah.
targeting programs.
Yeah. Even
So,
Armando noticed on me that like a year ago, he's like, he saw spots on my legs. Like, is that because you get hit in the kidneys? I'm like, I didn't even notice that I had those. I mean, because he would, check me with the little laser thing. So
mm-hmm.
it's good to make friends in this community. It's
Yes, there's because
it's
what
amazing.
they've tried, you may not have. It may benefit you, and vice versa. We just have to share.
Yeah.
For instead of we're making waves. Obviously,
Yeah.
we
I
get
mean,
hit when we make progress. So, but we have to
we
just
do.
keep going because I do this for my mother because she passed away a couple of years ago
I'm
and she had
sorry.
accelerated dementia.
And
She was the person that had a very sharp mind, and to see her go through that, I have no doubt. She used to complain about them hitting her on the head really hard with those
same,
weapons.
same with my mom, and we thought it was something totally or some kind of crazy migraine, and same, it deteriorates your mind. I mean, even my mind, I feel like my mind's only like a fourth is like it used to be, and that's hard to accept. And it's hard to
It
watch
is.
our loved ones go through this.
Yes,
Sometimes
it's
it's even
hard.
harder than going through it ourselves.
Absolutely. That's why I do everything I can to nourish the brain with the brain loves fat. We've been taught another lie that fat is bad. Now, yes, some fat is bad, but the good fat is good for our brain. And that's how we can counter some of what is being done against us
Mhm.
by nurturing our brain. There is something new that I'm going to try, and I'll give feedback once I receive it.
Mhm.
It's some drops that is supposed to be for brain health. So I'll let
Oh,
anything that's going to help us with brain fog or
yeah,
you know
D3, vitamin D3. Have you heard of
yes,
that? There's a whole book about it.
yeah,
Like
D3 is very
the
important.
the indoctrinated brain talks about it. How
Hmm.
during COVID, like just taking D3 consistently,
Yeah.
actually made people get over the COVID, symptoms really
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah, I mean D3 is very important. I
Mhm.
take one by systemic formulas called DB3,
Yeah.
and it has some support for the liver in it as well. Because our body's trying to get these toxins out from being radiated all the time and
Right.
everything. It's just B vitamins is another very important one. Magnesium is very, very beneficial to
Yes.
our brain, and we are going to be in deficiency because of it. So we need to make sure that we have magnesium. Uh, there's so many things. We just have to take our health in our body and help it because it's shielding us in our brain. We got to give back.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the feedback from the chat here. I see people lifting one another up. I
Mhm.
see prayer warriors out there praying for the community. This is what we have to do. We have
Yeah.
to, we have to, we got to stay centered in God, and we got to stay connected. We got to go into our physical and our mental countermeasures for this technology being used on us, and that's how we win.
Yeah.
Each and every day, that's how we win.
Yeah,
And
it's not easy. Yeah, you wake up every day and you make a choice to just. That's how what I do. I sometimes because I know a lot of people are out there. A lot of TIs are, from what I've heard in the community, they think they're being drugged, or they're just being really tired, and all of a sudden they just fall asleep. And I get it, like sleep bombs or something. So every morning, it's hard. Sometimes you have to make a decision. You have to just. Sometimes I just can't. I just don't think. Like I said, I may let my feet get up and start moving, and then eventually my brain will, come back and react in a positive way.
absolutely, because when we have things that we have to do, we got to keep pushing. Sometimes I get, really tired too, and I just press in. I was like, I have to get this done. I got to keep moving. And one thing that I'll put on, I've been feeling led to, there's like a technique, like if I know that I can be somewhat scattered by all of this,
Oh yeah.
and I'm jumping from one thing to the next, but it helps train you to focus by doing focus, for 15 minutes on one task, take a 10-minute break and go back to it until it's finished. So I will put that technique. I can't remember the name of the technique, but there's a name for it. I'll put that out as well. These are the things that we have to do because we know what we're up against with the short-term memory.
Right.
I am a post-it
Oh
note
gosh.
queen. I am
Oh yeah. Every time I have a thought, every time I'm in a meeting, every time, I stop right there and I'm like, my journal section of my phone, just like
yeah,
type, because I'll forget it. I'll
because
forget it.
it will be gone. And I'm like, no, this is a good one. I got to write this down. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to keep myself on track. These are the things
Yeah.
that I have to accomplish, and I have to keep going.
Oh yeah. I'll be watching a movie and all of a sudden, just pause it. And my husband just knows, oh, you must have gotten something, having
Yes,
to do with this program and that, or an idea for
right.
something,
It's
before
like
it just
that
disappears.
little insight, that light bulb that goes off. So, well, Lindsay, thank you so much. I really have enjoyed. You're so inspiring, and like I
Oh,
said, you're a
thank
light in the
you.
community. You've got a great team. You have some
Thank
wonderful
you.
projects that are going to benefit the community for our awareness and the victory through V2K. Don't forget, I wanted to mention the website for joining the call is there. For those who are out of country, if you connect to the website, it is going to give you a list of toll-free numbers for your area and your country. So don't fret that this is just for US. It's not. This is a global conference call center. So it will tell you, the time if for your time zone, and you will have options for call-in numbers. It's not just specific. You don't have to make a US call. So I had forgot to mention that earlier and wanted to point that out.
Okay.
So again, thanks so much, Lindsay.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Melissa. I think
Oh, you're
you're just an
welcome.
amazing woman, and you're so full of faith, and you have so many techniques and just ways to help this community. It's just you're a jewel, and we're grateful to have you.
I appreciate you, Lindsay, and I appreciate each and every one of you dialing in today and those who are watching later. God bless and stay
Yes.
strong. We are all in this together.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.